I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, February the 23rd, brought to you in part by the new Nasalgen. Bovolus Nasalgen 3 PMH is a one-of-a-kind respiratory vaccine that provides unmatched protection to young calves. It also leaves a unique blue shadow on their nose so you don't have to wonder which ones have been treated. For more information, go to unmatchedprotection.com. Winter Storm Olive. I don't know why we have to name all of our storms anymore, but it seems like we do. Before it seems like we only named hurricanes. Now, a little cold front comes by and we have to name that thing too. But Winter Storm Olive is coming through, and it's a big one. I mean, big, and could be an all-time record setter for snow in the upper Midwest. We're looking at like 2 feet of snow in the Twin Cities there, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Early in my USDA career, I worked at South St. Paul stockyards, and I remember when those big snows used to come through like that, and you would get a foot or more of snow, and you'd think, good, I didn't want to have to do anything the next day anyway. But the next day, everything was still open, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're not open if they get 2 feet of snow in the Twin Cities. But it's caused a lot of those upper Midwest and those northern plains sale barns to be closed. Middle of this week and later this week, they've already closed. So it is interrupting trade a little bit. And now's about the time when a lot of those northern producers think, maybe I turned my bulls in just a little bit too early. Because they're having calves right now in the middle of these big snows. Yes, March 1st, everybody wants their cows to start calving March the 1st. We're getting close to March the 1st. It's too early, guys. I think those calves would grow just fine if you give them another couple of weeks. Not to say you're going to get past all the blizzards then. We're likely going to have some late winter and early spring blizzards also. But when you're starting to calve in February, which we got guys that calve in January, but you start to calve in February, you're just asking for it. And it's miserable. And as high as everything is, as much as everything costs, fuel and everything that you need to take care of cattle in that kind of weather, I mean, it just puts you behind the 8 ball already. We're starting to hear from a lot of northern plains cattle feeders. Their cattle should be making good money right now, and a lot of them are losing money because of the high cost of gains, the weight that they've lost in all these winter storms, and just having to carry them so long, and we've talked about interest. Interest is getting higher, and it's starting to make a difference now where it hasn't for several years. But this winter storm coming across, it could put your packers in a little bit of a worrisome condition, because going to be a lot of tonnage lost in this. And some of the cattle that they've got to pick up are going to be lighter, and they're going to need more of them, and guys aren't going to be quite ready. And then after they come through the storm, they're going to be so wrung out that there may be guys that aren't going to want to sell cattle and ship them. And a lot of times your fat cattle market does like a storm, and I think the market itself is going to like this one. Now, the guys that are involved in it are not going to like it too much, but your southern plains producers are probably going to stand to gain here. We haven't had any wet weather at all, which that's tough for your turned out cattle, or cattle that should be turned out, but in the feedlot, it's fantastic. And it's been dry conditions and good feeding pretty much all winter so far in the southern plains. Let's talk about your board on Wednesday. February live cattle futures up 15 cents, 164.90 on your spot live cattle, guys. That is pretty darn good. It's only going to last here for a couple more sessions, but almost 165 selling cattle, just barely over 160, so that's pretty good. April down 2 cents at 165.07. Your back months were down 17 to up 25 cents. March feeder cattle up $1.10 at 187.97. April was up 95 at 191.75. Those were up big because corn was cheaper. Your back months on feeder cattle were up 42 to up $1.25. March corn was down 6.5 cents a bushel at 6.74. Beans were down 9.25 cents a bushel. Fat cattle trade, still not much. We had a little bit more on Tuesday than what we thought. Iowa sold less than 100 head on Wednesday, but for the week they've sold 5,000. So they had some late sales on Tuesday, and they've all been pretty good price because most of them have been to the regional packers. The few sales that they had on Wednesday were at 162. Nebraska less than 100 head confirmed. They've had 2,200 head for the week, but still haven't really established anything. The few sales they had on Wednesday were 161. Kansas and Texas have not traded a hoof, and they're the reason that we've gained so much ground in your fat cattle market over the last several weeks, because they are holding out until late on Thursday or maybe even late on Friday, getting a higher price, helping everybody, including your sweetheart guys that wait for their trade to establish their base price. But no fat cattle auction in Sioux Falls Regional Stockyard in Worthing, South Dakota, because of the blizzard conditions there. So we didn't have that brick and mortar fat cattle sale. Box beef cutout values higher again, not as much on choice this time, more on select, but choice cuts are up 71 cents at $287.91. Select's up $2.80 at $273.64. Your slaughter so far for the week trying to catch up a little bit, but we were down so much on Monday starting off that it's going to be pretty disappointing for the week. But through the first 3 days of the week, 357,000 head harvested compared to 376 last week and 360 same week a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. Livestock Risk Services, that's Dakota Moss and his team there. They are your LRP specialists. They do them all day, every day. And was talking with Dakota Moss there several months ago, and he said, you know, every time I got a producer that wanted an LRP in a new state, he said, I got licensed to do it in that state, and now is pretty much licensed in every state you can think of that would want to do an LRP on turnout cattle. And if you guys are turning some of these high dudes out this spring, you want to get an LRP on them, guys. Something could happen. We've got a lot of tumultuous things going on in politics and things like that. You want to get protected on those. Talk about your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on DV auction late in the day on Wednesday sitting at 183.88, up 47 cents. So gaining a little bit more ground, and had some good sales there. Going to tell you about a lot of them. OKC West, El Reno, Oklahoma. DV auction customer there, 9,000 head for their 2-day sale. Feeder steers were steady to $2 higher, with stocker steers similar to the city. Well, stocker steers, the kind of the calf weight yearlings with the thinner condition, weighing from 6.5 to 7.5, $6 to $9 higher, including 93 head of 736 pound steers with some condition, bring $196.50. Feeder heifers were $2 to $6 higher. Calves were steady, spots as much as $5 higher. Your Wednesday sale in El Reno was your Zoeta stick-out sale of the day. This is just the yearling feeders selling. They sold the calves on Tuesday, but about 6,000 head for Wednesday. Look at this automated marker report. You look at your best tested weights. 950 head of 7-weight steers in El Reno, Oklahoma, averaged 740 pounds. Weighted average price $188.09. That was about $6 higher. That includes those stockers we were talking about. 878 head of 8-weight steers in El Reno, about $2 higher at $178.21 compared to last week's weighted average. 509 head of 9-weight steers averaged 943 pounds with a weighted average price of $172.47. That was a couple bucks higher. On your heifers, 822 head of 6-weight heifers averaged 666, weighted average price $179.08, about $5 higher. And 879 head 7-weight heifers averaged $749, weighted average price on all those heifers $173.15, and that was about $5 higher. How about winter livestock in Dodge City, Kansas? They had 3,800 head. Good sale for them. Market was $3 to $7 higher on all classes. Stick-out sale in Dodge was 95 head, 848 pound feeder steers at $185.10. I'm going to give you several individual quotes. going to start with the highest one because it is on replacement heifers. Twin Falls Livestock Commission in Twin Falls, Idaho. Talked to Jake Billington, and they had some really nice cattle in there. Thompson Ranch brought in their heifers. They were all natural on top of being replacement quality and ready to go, guys. But 63 of those heifers sold for replacement. They weighed 738 pounds at $227.50. And you can see what kind of quality they were dealing with. Had some other smaller groups bring over $2, but not quite that much. But thought that was a really stick-out deal on some replacement heifers. How about in the southeast on some stocker calves? North Arkansas Livestock in Green Forest, Arkansas sells 96 head of steers, weighed 534 at $229.50. How much wheels you want to put under those guys? How about Bloomfield Livestock Market in Bloomfield, Iowa? The Schooley family there sold 64 head of steers, weighed 854 at $187. But the best quote that I saw anywhere on Wednesday, your Mackerson No BS top quote for the day, come out of Torrington Livestock Markets, 211 head, 646 pound steers, bring $227.50. And that's your feeder flash for Thursday.